Let's Talk Day is now in the rearview mirror. It raised just under $8 million according to their website. Bell Let's Talk Day is now in the rearview mirror. Bell Let's Talk Day is now in the rearview mirror. It raised just under $8 million according to their website through social media. Because of these efforts and others, mental health awareness is on the rise, but there is a flip side. Sharon Bailey is a counselor at College of the North Atlantic. She says social media can help, but it also has a dark side.
There have been instances where people who've been very, very stressed and upset have gone for help through the internet and gotten encouragement to do things that they should not have been encouraged to do. There's also been cases where people who are upset connect with people who are very helpful.
Chantel Traynor is 26 years old and has experienced mental health issues for most of her life. She has battled anxiety, depression, panic disorder, and takes medication to help. Traynor feels that even though social media has raised awareness for mental health, it's now turning for the worse.
I think social media takes an aspect to it of where they look for attention from it more than they look for a solution to it, or like stating real facts about it or getting help out there. I don't really think that that's what comes from social media on that end of it.
Back at the college, Sharon Bailey is seeing many of these problems herself.
And so you get somebody who doesn't feel good about themselves and thinks, okay, I just got this information about so-and-so and I can forward it to someone and I can reply and it can become quite devastating to the person who's the target of the bullying.
Traynor is a new mother, and because of her own experiences, she is worried about her son's future dealing with an online world.
Kids today are mean, and I think it's only getting worse as the years go on, and I think social media plays a huge part in that.
For Kicker News, I'm Matt Haggerty.
Gender. Yet the stigma surrounding the topic is still there. The stigma seems to be even greater for men with mental health issues in our society. But is this still the case, or has the situation improved towards a more open dialogue? Kicker's Henrika Wilhelm has the answer.
In recent years, campaigns have been launched to raise awareness for men's mental health. According to the Mental Health Commission of Canada, 80% of Canadians who die by suicide are men. John Abbott, CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association in Newfoundland and Labrador, says this is a pressing issue in the province.
Approximately 6.4% of the population have had thoughts of suicide. So if you extract that across the population, that would be almost 33,000 people.
One of the things that men living with mental illnesses struggle with is the social stigma. Mitchell Mahaney works with Mon Minds, a student-run organization at Memorial University that offers peer support. He describes the stigma.
Society has basically taught us from the time we can walk and watch TV that men have to be strong and can't be weak and we have to be the shoulder to cry type thing. When in reality, we're not always that.
Mahaney notices that the number of men seeking counseling seems to have been increasing. Abbott agrees.
It tends to be female that are more seeking support or counseling or advice. But that's changing, and particularly when we're going to larger general sessions, there's a good distribution of men and women.
The higher number of men seeking help for mental issues is certainly fueled by a more open conversation about this topic in society. Mahaney paints an overall positive picture.
When I was in high school, so back in 2016, it was a topic that we did not talk about. But now I see a lot of difference. I see that it's more open.
Overall, it seems like there's hope that the stigma surrounding mental illness will be eliminated in the future, both for men and women. And if you are in crisis, don't hesitate to ask for help. For Kicker News, I'm Henrika Wilhelm.
It's been 2 weeks since Snowmageddon rocked the island, and the healthcare system is struggling to get back on track. Eric Thomas has the story.
Snowmageddon has gone down in history as one of the worst storms to ever hit Newfoundland and Labrador. Having caused a state of emergency in St. John's that lasted nearly a week, it caused many problems for commuters. but healthcare professionals persevered. I spoke with Colleen Jones-Down, a physiotherapist at the Janeway.
We have scheduled patients every week, and all of those patient appointments would have been canceled for that whole week, and of course the Friday as well. So we had patients and clients, I suppose, waiting for services that they did not receive at all for that whole week. In our situation, I suppose we're dealing with kids who are in pain, dealing with like knee injuries, back injuries, those sorts of things. So we didn't get too many complaints, as we did our very best to reschedule all the patients for the week following. So they did okay. Our outpatients did okay, but of course they had to spend an extra week waiting for our services. So that was not as much fun for them, I'm sure.
The storm didn't end there. Matt Piercy is the regional director for lodges and transportation for the Canadian Cancer Society, and shedded some light on how cancer patients were also affected.
I work at a place called Daffodil Place, is one of our programs, and that there is a building where people can come in when they're going through their cancer-related appointments to stay. So we offer them the food, their shelter, rides back and forth to their appointments, those sorts of things. So the biggest concern for us was to ensure that our guests were safe, obviously, that they had all the food that they needed, their heat, but they were also getting back and forth to their treatments, because some of these treatments, you can't miss one or two. You have to make sure you get there. So that was a huge concern. People are getting out more now, because before they were really stuck in the building. They're still getting to their treatments, but they were stuck in the building. So now they can get out a little bit more, walk around a little bit, but still some of the sidewalks need to be cleared, obviously. But it's business as usual.
This is Eric Thomas for Kicker News, St. John's.
There's some nasty weather coming tomorrow, so we're going to throw it over to the newsroom where our weather specialist Chloe Power has the Friday forecast.
Here comes another messy Friday morning. Just look at all that red. St. John's Metro and Eastern Avalon Peninsula will be pelted with 10 to 15 centimeters of snow and ice pellets and 5 to 10 millimeters of freezing rain in Metro, while the Southern Shore can expect 15 to 25 millimeters. Environment Canada has issued a freezing rain warning for the St. John's area at 10:30 this morning. To report any severe weather, please send an email to nlstorm@canada.ca or tweet reports using hashtag NLWX. For Kicker News, this is Chloe Power. Now back to Jasmine Burt.
Want to see a greener, cleaner Newfoundland? Kicker's Nick Travis went to Green New Drinks to discuss a green Newfoundland with the Social Justice Co-op of Newfoundland and Labrador.
The Green New Drink started as a monthly meetup for activists who are interested in a wide variety of things, social justice issues, environmental issues, and it began sort of as a way for people to sort of show solidarity for each other. It can be kind of lonely as an activist sometimes. You feel like you're the only person who cares about this so passionately.
It's possible to change. People want it to change.
Social justice co-ops emerged from Oxfam, St. John's, which was a really, really vibrant movement. Oxfam basically closed all of its regional offices, and the people in St. John's wanted to keep something that was rooted here rather than like kind of tacking on with Oxfam Canada. They wanted to keep something that was really rooted in St. John's.
You know, it's not just about environmental issues. You know, climate change is a symptom of this bigger problem that exists in our society, where we basically neglect our environment and the people around us to such an extent that it leads to crisis, right? The environment of climate change is the perfect example of how we just let it degrade for such a long time. But we do that everywhere, right? The way we treat, you know, people that are vulnerable, precarious, and indigenous, right? We just cast them aside, just like these environmental problems like climate change.
Most of the people who are organizing are volunteers. They have jobs from 9 to 5 or different hours, and that's the thing that's really tough, is balancing. Because when you're when you're trying to make social change, like in government, people, this is their 9 to 5 job. But when you're trying to do it off the clock, it can be really tough to find the time and to do serious hard work of researching new policies, of doing consulting, coming out to events. All this is time and energy, and making time for that is really tough.
St. John's Edge is struggling to get fans to come to the games this season. How is the organization going to fix this issue, and why are the fans not showing up frequently anymore? I went down to Mile 1 Center to find out for myself. With the Edge's attendance being at an all-time low this season, only averaging just over 2,400 fans per game, many people are doubting the future of the Edge. Edge fanatic Gavin Roach believes the atmosphere and energy at Mile 1 have changed dramatically this season. He says the fans aren't as familiar with the new faces they see on the court.
There's only one player there this season who was there last, I believe, and also a lot of their popular players from the first year or two, like Big Baby Davis, Jaron Skeet, and Carl English aren't on the team anymore. And maybe where there's not as many recognizable names, fans aren't as inclined to go down and watch them.
Tyrone Livingston is the team's president. He agrees with this.
The biggest thing that has really hurt the club has been the absence of Carl English, which in its inaugural season, he played a major part in helping grow the brand of the Edge. He played an integral part of the success of the club on and off the court.
A big local star would be nice for the team, but for now, Tyrone says being a big role in giving back to the community will help get fans down to the game.
We do a ton of school visits per week when we don't have games, when our players are available. We've done a ton of different community initiatives. For instance, we've gone to Janeway during the Christmas holiday season.
Hopes are high that in the second half of the season, that more fans will come down to cheer on the Edge as they make a push for the playoffs. For Kicker News, this is Kyle Curtis.
While most people prefer to avoid ice during the winter, ice climbers in St. John's area are enjoying a great climbing season. Kickers Alan Bradbury headed out to Flat Rock to check out some of the spots.
Climbing are not too cold, like within zero, so people think the colder it is, the better the ice is, and it's not. The colder it is, the drier it is, and it sucks the moisture out of the ice and makes it much more brittle and breaks easy. So the ideal ice is just below freezing. So there's days that we've climbed in the past where it's, 1, 0, -1, -2, where the ice is a little bit softer. So that means that you can sink the tools in a bit better and it doesn't fracture as much. So the ice doesn't break up as quick. When it's really cold and brittle, it breaks up the ice a lot quicker because there's no moisture.
Anxiety is one of the more difficult climbs on the Avalon. It's just this super cool, strangely it's like an overhung waterfall. Rock climbing is a lot more kind of flowy and movement based, and ice is, I guess, kind of more brutal and just intense. It's just a lot more of a brutal activity because you're swinging tools and you're smashing ice in front of your face all the time, and there's always stuff flying everywhere, and with rock you don't really have that problem.
It's a blast from the past in this next story. Roller derby has made a comeback in the past 20 years, and the 2009 movie Whip It, starring Ellen Page, helped the sport gain some major traction. Brianna McCormack stopped by the local derby practice to get the scoop.
Roller derby. Most of you are probably thinking back to the 1970s. However, roller derby has changed quite a bit over the last 50 years.
My name's Jane Bannister, and my derby name's Betty Trooper, number 22, and I skate with the Neversweets. It's completely not as bad as it was in the 1970s. Like the picture that everybody has and everyone says, oh, Skinny Minnie Miller. Like that was no hold bars. That was like wrestling on roller skates. So right now we have a big rule book that gets updated all the time in order to make it the safest full contact, kind of violent sport that there is. Kind of like football and chess at the same time. You're watching two skaters, one from each team, trying to get past four other skaters from the other team, and those four other skaters are doing whatever they can to keep her from doing that, because every skater she passes from the other team gets a point for her team.
So my name is Maud, and my derby name is Iron Moden. I started derby in 2017 when I was back in Quebec. In the rest of your life, you need this because you go through challenges and through tough things, and sometimes you're like, it doesn't work the way I want, and you feel like you should be allowed to fail and should be allowed just to have troubles. But sometimes just the consequences are harder, but in derby it's just like, let's give your best and we'll take you as you come.
We'll be running another recruitment event. It might be going into the spring, but it would be a 14-week training session that we'd have any new skater, anybody interested in learning more about quad roller skating.
Make sure to check the Derby Girls out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 709 Roller Derby. This is Brianna McCormick, and you're listening to Kicker Radio.
Miss out on the chance to become a football star? Well, your kid still has the chance. What you might not know is that Newfoundland now has a football league. If teamwork, dedication, and staying active sounds good to you, head to practice. Chantel Murrin has the story.
Football is the ultimate team sport. Through the work of Football NL, there are now opportunities for kids ages 4 to 18 to play here in the province. Brian Hillier is the head coach of the under-16 provincial team and hopes to see the organization continue to grow.
Initially, I think it kicked off in 2014. Since that time, it's growing, but I'd say slowly growing. It's starting to get momentum now, but we still see growth, so it's good.
This July, Hillier's team will be heading to Nova Scotia to play outdoor tackle football against other Atlantic provinces. Coach says for some players, it's not just recreational.
We've had a couple kids play with Holland College in PEI, so we've had players starting to think about college and how they play after they leave the province. And I know there's a number of kids on this team are thinking about trying to play college ball.
Football NL is looking into doing training camps and combines to generate interest and develop the skills of their players. Longtime football fan Brandon O'Neill shares his thoughts.
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for the kids in the province to learn this sport. I wish I had the opportunity when I was growing up.
This year, a Canadian won the Vince Lombardi Trophy, making it just the 9th time in history. Maybe one day, thanks to Football NL, a Newfoundlander will become a Super Bowl champion too. For Kicker News, I'm Chantel Murrin.
Increasing number of international students are studying in Newfoundland in order to develop their careers. My co-host Jasmine Burt sat down with 2 international students to chat about the best and the worst part about studying in the province.
Migrants here really appreciate the opportunity to be in this country and to be in this province. So people shouldn't get discouraged by maybe the actions of some few people. And it was like early fall, so I really love the fact that it was really clean and that this city was beautiful and then lots of vegetations. This year was kind of like crazy, like for 1 week we're all stuck indoor, we couldn't really go out. I called my mom was really like afraid that she was freaking out. So it was just beyond imagination, I'll put it that way. Mm-hmm. Experience was the warmth of the people when I came in. I felt like people were really nice and really supportive.
The culture is completely different from where I came here. I'm from a country where a very conservative set of rules are being practiced rather. But here it's like more open culture is there. Immigration officers are like asking what you guys are carrying this much of herbs and stuff, because when we feel that, like that paper, if you are carrying any type of a herb or thing, they think that we are carrying stuff to make some kind of a different type of a drug here.
With the advancements in video game technology, you'd think the dying arcade business would be finished by now. St. John's, however, has a modern arcade that seems to be defying all expectations. Kickers Griffin Stuckless has the story.
2, 3, funk. It's easier than ever to stay cooped up by yourself and play video games. So why are people heading out to the rec room to get their fix? I talked to Greg Wells, a video game art and design instructor at CNA, about his thoughts on the modern arcade. Greg, what draw do you think arcades may have that modern games just don't?
Games are part of human culture. A place like the Rec Room gives a place for families, for birthday parties, you know, to really have that community vibe where there's something for everyone. Whereas in a living room where you have these things, it might be a single user with a headset on, or you're only playing one game at a time, and that comes down to particular tastes of what you want to play.
Speaking of community vibes, I spoke to Tyler Pierce, a frequent visitor of the arcade. What brings you to the Rec Room today, Tyler?
Me and my friend here are going to play some pool.
What is it that just keeps bringing you back to the Rec Room?
We just really love pool.
After spending some time at the Rec Room myself, I can definitely see the appeal. There's just something about the flashing lights and sounds of the arcade that puts you in an excitable mood. Whether it be a sense of community, a way to gather, or just playing your favorite game with your friends, the Rec Room is definitely making its mark as a modern arcade that's rekindling social gaming. I'm Griffin Stuckless for Kicker News.
For watching and listening to Kicker Radio on YouTube. This has been Carl Curtis alongside my host Jasmine Burt, and please make sure to follow us on social media at KickerCNA. Have a good day.